Chapters 7 and 8 of The Rejuvenation of Aunt Mary by Anne Warner. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 7. Developments. It was during that drive the next morning that Jack, buoyed up by memories of Saturday and hopes of coming Saturdays, poured out the history of his life at Mrs. Roscott's knees. He told her the whole story of Aunt Mary, and his side of the cat, the cabman, and the Kalamazoo. It interested her, for she had arrived too recently to have had the full details in the newspapers beforehand, but when he spoke of Aunt Mary's last letter, she grew large-eyed and shook her head gravely. "You will have to be very good now," she said seriously. "Why?" he asked. "Just to keep from being disinherited? That wouldn't be so awful." "Wouldn't it be awful to you?" she asked, turning her bright eyes upon him. "What could be worse?" "Things," he said very vaguely. Then she touched up the cob a little, and after a minute or two, as she said nothing, he continued. "I almost fancy quitting college and going to work. I was thinking about it last night." She touched the cob up a little more and remained silent. Finally he said, "What would you think of my doing that?" "I don't know," she said slowly. "You see, I'm a great philosopher. I never fret or worry because I regard it as useless. Similarly, I never rebel at the way fate shapes my life. I regard that as something past helping. I believe in predestination. Do you?" She turned and looked at him so seriously, so unlike her riant self, that he felt startled and did not know what to say for a minute. Then, "I don't know," he said slowly. "I don't know that I dare to. It rather startles me to think that maybe all our future is laid out now." "It doesn't startle me," she said. "It seems to me the natural plan of the universe. I believe that everything that crosses our path, down to the tiniest gnat, comes there in the fulfillment of a purpose." "I'm sure that all the mosquitoes that ever crossed my path came there in the fulfillment of a purpose," Jack interrupted. "I never doubted that." She smiled a little. "It's the same with people," she went on. "Only less painful," he interrupted again. "Sometimes not," she said, with a look that silenced him. "Sometimes much more so. My cousin Maud, for example." "Hip, hip, hurrah for the mosquito," he murmured. They laughed softly together. Then she grew earnest and looked so grave that he became serious too. "There is always a purpose," she said, with a touch of some feeling which he had never guessed at. "If you and I have met, it is because we are to have some influence over one another. I cannot just see how. I can't form any idea—" "I can," he said eagerly. She looked up so suddenly and steadily that he was silent. "Do not let us play any longer," she said. "Let us be in earnest." "But I am in earnest," he asseverated. "You don't know what I mean," she went on very gently. "You're in college. Let's fight it out on those lines if it takes all summer." He looked up into her face and loved her better than ever for the frank kindliness that shone in her eyes. "All right, if you say so," he vowed. "I do say so. I like to see men stick it through in college if they begin. I like to see people finish up every one of life's jobs that they set out on." "But I'm coming to see you in town, you know," he went on with great apparent irrelevance. She laughed merrily. "Yes, surely. You must promise me that. No." She stopped and looked thoughtful. "I'll tell you what I want you to promise me. Promise me that you'll come once a week, or else write me why you can't come. Will you?" You can't suppose that you'll ever see my handwriting under such circumstances, can you? Jack asked. She laughed again. Is it a promise? Yes, it's a promise. Oh, joy unmeasured in the time of spring! No other February like that had ever been for them, nor ever would be. The drive came to an end, the day came to an end, but the good nights, which were good-byes, too, were not so fraught with hopelessness as he had dreaded, for the promise asked and given paved a broad road illuminated by the most hopeful kind of stars, a broad road leading straight from college to town, and his fancy showed him a figure treading it often, a figure that was his own. Chapter 8. The Resolution He Took. That first meeting was in February, you know, and by the last of April it had been followed by so many others that Burnett remarked one day to his chum, "Say, aren't you going a little faster than Auntie'll stand for?" Jack turned in surprise. "I never went so straight in my life before," he exclaimed, not in indignation, but in astonishment. "I didn't mean that," said Burnett. "Perhaps instead of Auntie, I should have said Betty." Jack hoisted the colors of Harvard and was silent. "I warned you at first that that was Tangletown," his friend went on. "Don't suppose I'm saying anything against her, or against you, but she's just as much to 10 other men as she is to you, and they are all old enough to carry lots of weight." "And I suppose I'm not," Jack answered, going over by the fireplace. "I know that as well as anyone, of course." "Natürlich," said Burnett, with conclusiveness that was not meant to be cruel, yet cut like a two-edged knife. There was silence in the room. Jack stood by the chimney-piece, his hands upraised to rest upon its lofty shelf, his head dropped forward, and his eyes fixed on the empty blackness below. "I wonder," he said at last, "I wonder what will become of me if He stopped. Burnett didn't speak. "I wonder if she thinks of me as a boy," the young man continued. "I wonder if she's so good to me because I'm her youngest brother's friend." Burnett did not comment on this speech. "I don't know what to do," the other said. "When I first met her I wanted to cut college and get out in the world and go to work like a man. I told her so. But she wanted me to stay in college, and as it was the first thing she'd ever wanted of me, I did it. I'd do anything she asked me. I've quit drinking. I'm going at everything as hard as it's in me to go. But I don't know. I feel as if it isn't me. It's just because she wants me to. And, do you know, old man, it frightens me to think how, if she went out of my life." He stopped, and his broken phrases were not continued to any ending. Another long silence ensued. It was finally terminated by the brothers saying, "You must confess, old man, that you aren't fixed so as to be able to say one really serious word to any woman, unless it is wait." "I know that," Jack answered, "but I suppose—" "She'd be taking so many chances," the friend interrupted. "A man in college is never the real thing. You'd better give it up." Then the other whirled about and faced him. "Give it up, did you say?" he asked, almost angrily. "Yes, that's what." For a minute they looked at one another. Then, "I shall never give it up," the lover said very slowly and steadily. "Never until she gives me up." Burnett sucked in his breath with a sudden compression of his lips. "All right," he said, not unkindly. "But I don't believe you'll ever get her, and that's flat. There are too many being entered for that race, and long before you and I get out of here, she'll be Mrs. Somebody else." Jack stared at him as if he hardly heard, and then suddenly he moved nearer and spoke. "Did she ask you to have this talk with me?" "No," said the brother in surprise. "She never says anything about you to me." A look of relief fled across his friend's face, and then a look of resolution succeeded it. "I'm not going to be discouraged," he said. "Not for a while, at any rate." "You'd better be." Jack laughed. The laugh sounded a trifle hollow, but still it was a laugh, and that in itself was a triumph of which none but himself might ever measure the extent. Because in that moment he decided to lay the whole case before her the next time that he went to town, and the coming to a resolution was a relief from the uncertainty that clouded his days and nights, even if a farther black curtain of darkest doubt hung before the possibilities of what her answer might be. End of chapter 8.